Hey there, and welcome. So I know Quiz 3 can look a little scary, right? It's pulling stuff from 3 different lessons. But don't you worry, we're going to walk through every single type of problem together, and you're going to totally ace this thing. Okay, let's just dive right in. The goal here is pretty simple. Turn any confusion you might have into total confidence. And we're going to do that by tackling one problem at a time, step by step.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with lines and slopes, then we'll jump into proportions. After that, we'll get into solving systems of equations, and we'll finish up by cracking those word problems. By the end, you'll have everything you need.
All right, let's get into our first topic. We're kicking things off with the basics from Lesson 8, which is all about understanding the parts of a line on a graph. This is the first kind of problem you're going to see. It's basically asking you to take this equation and pull out its 3 key stats, how steep it is, and exactly where it hits the x and y axis.
Now, the secret weapon for this is the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Seriously, if we can just make our equation look like this one, the answers practically jump out at us.
So, how do we do it? It's a 3-step process. First, we've got to get y all by itself. So, we subtract 2x from both sides, then divide everything by 3. And just like that, it's in our magic y equals mx plus b format. Now we can literally just see that the slope, m, is negative 2/3, and the y-intercept, b, is 2. Easy. For the x-intercept, we just pop a 0 in for y in the original equation and solve for x.
And there are our final answers all laid out. The slope is negative, which tells us the line goes down from left to right. It crosses the vertical y-axis at 2, and it crosses the horizontal x-axis at 3. See? Not so bad at all.
All right, with that under our belts, let's move on. Next up is a concept from Lesson 9, the simple but super useful idea of proportions.
Okay, this next type of problem just looks like 2 fractions set equal to each other, right? But one of them is missing a number. All it's really asking is, hey, if 4 relates to 9 in a certain way, what number relates to 36 in that same way?
The trick here, and it's a great one, is called cross multiplication. You just multiply diagonally across that equal sign. So we get 4 times 36 on one side, and 9 times x on the other. That simplifies down to 144 equals 9x. A quick division by 9 on both sides, and we find our answer. X is 16. Awesome, 2 topics down. Now, we're going to get into something that kind of brings a few skills together, solving a system of equations. This is a really big part of Lesson 10. What we have here are 2 different lines, each with its own equation. Our job, our entire mission, is to find the single point, that one specific x, y coordinate, where these 2 lines intersect on a graph. Now look closely at that first equation. See how y is already by itself? That's a huge clue that substitution is the way to go. We're going to take that whole expression, the 2x minus 8, and literally substitute it for the y in the second equation. The cool thing is, that leaves us with one equation that only has x in it. We can solve that easily and find x equals 3. Then, we just plug that 3 back into the first equation to find out that y equals negative 2.
And there we go. That's it. The one and only point where these 2 lines cross is at the coordinate 3, negative 2. That's our solution. Okay, you've made it to the final section. Let's take everything we just learned and apply it to what, let's be honest, can feel like the hardest part, turning a story problem into actual math.
This is such a classic quiz problem. It looks like a bunch of words, but don't let that fool you. All it's really doing is giving you 2 key clues, the total number of bills and the total value of those bills. Each of those clues is going to become its own equation.
So the very first step is to translate this out of English and into math. Let's call the number of dollar bills x and the number of $5 bills y. Now, we use our 2 clues. The first one, about the number of bills, gives us our first equation, x plus y equals 20. The second clue, about the money, gives us our second equation, 1x plus 5y equals 52. And hey, look at that. It's a system of equations, just like we did in the last problem. We can use that exact same substitution method to find out that y is 8 and x is 12. So our final answer is 12 $1 bills and 8 $5 bills. You know, it's always a good idea to just quickly check, do we have 20 bills? Yep, 12 plus 8 is 20. Is the value $52? Well, $12 plus 8 times 5, that's 40, so 12 plus 40 is 52. Perfect, it works. Okay, so let's wrap this all up. Here it is, your Quiz 3 toolkit.
For those line problems, your goal is to get it into y equals mx plus b form. For proportions, you're going to cross-multiply. For systems of equations, substitution is your best friend. And for word problems, it's all about translating each clue into its own equation.
You know, this quiz is about way more than just finding x and y. It's really about a way of thinking, about learning how to take a big, messy problem and break it down into smaller pieces that you can actually solve. And that's a skill you can use for pretty much anything. You've totally got this. Good luck.